Okay, well, if we're ready, we're going to go ahead and get started. We will let people in as they arrive, but we don't want to hold anyone up. So I want to introduce our speaker. It's Patrick King with Imagine, and he is going to be talking about back to business, giving us marketing strategies for this post-pandemic world, and we'll answer any questions that you might have either in the chat or at the end of our presentation. So Patrick, take it away.
All right, thanks for that, Rebecca. I know that there might have been a little bit of a confusion with the URLs, but I'll go ahead and get started. People can come in when they get here. A lot of this is talking about obviously marketing and how we should change our marketing as we come out of this pandemic. But before we talk about the changes in marketing and how to do business as we recover, we have to talk about how the customer has fundamentally changed. The recession of '08, as with all recessions, was financially driven. While we are looking at a recession this time, today's situation is different in that it was brought about by a health crisis. So for the first time in any of our lives, we've been collectively afraid to go outside, to go to the grocery store, to interact with people, outside of our immediate families. This type of an event changes people much differently than a financial crisis does. The desire to be safe, feelings of immobility and helplessness, the uncertainty of when we'll be able to live normally again. The effect of these collective emotions makes connecting with customers far more difficult and complex than simply having customers with less money. To start, I'm going to go over a McKinsey report that was published earlier this month. And a few consistencies were found when they spanned like 42 countries. The most pronounced trend that they saw was a drop in net consumer optimism. That's usually a really big indicator during recession. And they also noticed an expectation of long-lasting impact, defined as lasting longer than 4 months. And as you can see, there was a big drop in the month of May. It was pretty gradual over time, but really took a dive in the middle of May. And customers are going to be selective on where they spend their money now and even well after coming out of this. But I'll emphasize the word selective. They're going to continue spending. They'll still align with brands. They're just going to be a bit more hesitant and a bit less frivolous. Now, fortunately, as you can see, we've noticed a nice rebound toward the end of last month, but it's going to be interesting to see how the uptick in cases in the South has impacted things this month, because in that same report, well over half of the respondents in the U.S. expect both their routines and their finances to be impacted for longer than 4 months. And a change that lasts as long as it already has is going to have a profound impact on our long-term routines. And though I'm really tired of hearing the phrase new normal, things are definitely different. And we're not going back to the way things were. Not completely anyway. Next factor that they go over is digital migration, which is changing your routines from either picking up the phone, going to a store, to strictly digital means. The same report shows that consumers intend to use e-commerce and distance shopping for to some extent far more in the near future, and it's pretty universal in a number of categories. It shows these major categories with groceries, snacks, household supplies, a lot of product-based things. But when we narrow down to the US and expand that view of categories, it shows that consumers are shifting to digital solutions for a lot more than just products or services. We have, telehealth is a big thing right now, remote learning, video conferencing as we're doing right now. These are all adjustments we've all had to make, and now we're pretty familiar with them at this point. We'll get back to, doctor's appointments and grocery shopping and stuff like that eventually, but their alternatives, I think, will play a larger part from now on. Uh, we've transitioned a better part of our entire lifestyles to online channels, and many are unlikely to return to a lot of their previous habits. What we're seeing proves that anything that can be done virtually will be. So what does that give us? It gives us a consumer that's fearful, survival focused, selective, and increasingly used to technology. And this paints a picture of them in hiding, and it's up to us as marketers or business owners to give them confidence and comfort, as well as create experiences that work less for us and more for them. They need trust, and we need to earn it. And a great proven way to do this is to shift your strategy from being business centric, meaning it's focused on your offering, your features, benefits, yada, 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 to a customer centric approach. And I'm sure that most people, if not everyone on this call, thinks that their business is already customer centric. But let me throw something at you. When you introduce your business, whether it's on your website or in person or wherever, how do you speak about it? Do you talk about who you are, what you offer, what you specialize in? Do you go into your product or your service, your point of difference? You'll notice that I've mentioned nothing about what the customer's needs are or anything about them really. And that's the difference. When you're in the mode of being business centric, you're focused on how good your product or service is. When you're customer centric, your focus is on the needs and desires, overall experience, and all the nuances that come with it regarding the customer. And your business introduction sounds more like, we give customers a remarkable blank experience, or we improve customers' lives by blank. So you're not just putting the customer at the forefront of your marketing. In doing so, you're placing them at the core of why your business exists. This fundamentally transforms the way and the reason why you do business. Now think about like Apple or Amazon. They talk about what they offer, and they talk less about what they offer, and they talk more about what their customer needs, what they want, or what they aspire to. And that's customer centrism. We as a society, we're wiser than ever to shallow marketing tactics. That Pepsi campaign with Kendall Jenner back in 2017 is a prime example of a lack of substance or understanding of the consumer and how it can backfire in a spectacular way. And if you haven't seen it, I encourage you to look it up, as well as the backlash that resulted from it. I think doing so will really emphasize the need for focusing less about business and understanding more about who your customer is. And we can sense insincerity, and maybe we've grown more cynical. But getting our trust takes a lot more nowadays. And since it's trust we need, we have to earn it the right way. You see, customer centrism at its core is a change from selling to serving. And your business model will have to adapt. So let's go over some strategies that you can use to shift into that customer-centric approach. Now, first thing you have to do is know your customer. Now, this slide may look familiar as I've used it in a couple of my more recent webinars, and it's just as important now. This is a persona builder, and we use it to determine the needs, desires, and what fulfillment means to each type of customer that you have. It also helps to determine where, when, and with what type of messaging we can best communicate with. And you'll see here, I'm not going with a specific business. Instead, I'm going to go with an entire town, a combination of businesses, because, we want to keep it simple, right? What we have here on the left-hand side, real basic information. We've given this persona a memorable name. that helps us immediately identify it with these qualities. We have an age group. We have their preferred social media networks. We also have other forms of preferred communication. So in this case, Wendy doesn't want to be bothered by email. She doesn't want to be bothered by text messages. She kind of does things on her own terms. She'll pick up the phone and call. She'll initiate a web chat. And when she does get a hold of somebody, she wants somebody that exhibits both warmth and knowledge. She wants to talk to somebody that clearly knows what the answers to her questions are and does it in an approachable way. Next, over to the right, we have what her goal is. What she's trying to do is plan a safe day out for herself, her husband, and their 4-year-old son. Maybe go on a small road trip and go to a small town where there's plenty of social distancing, that has some shops and maybe a nice outdoor lunch. She does her research by checking out online reviews. She may see things on Facebook. She'll do a Google search. She'll also use some of her preferred social media networks. Maybe see what's on Pinterest or check out places on Instagram. Her biggest challenges in planning this trip is getting the time away from work, budget, social distancing. Her son is a picky eater, and some of these things may be relevant, may be challenges that you can overcome, and some of them may not be. But it's important to know as many of those challenges as possible. It's also good to know what her personal interests are. So home decorating, renovation, maybe going to antique shops, self-improvement, maybe fitness, obviously parenting. You can't have a 4-year-old child and not have them take up a lot of your time. And also American history buff. So maybe going to small towns is a lot more interesting than just finding quaint businesses. Okay? So we're going to come back to this persona, but when I say each type of customer, let me illustrate. Every business has multiple types of customers. Let's say, for instance, you're in the bridal industry, right? You'll have a few obvious different personas. You'll have the bride herself, the wedding planner, a relative of the bride, maid of honor. They'll all have slightly different nuances and different priorities. If you run a nonprofit, you're going to have small donors, large donors, volunteers, sponsors, and so on. And for the purpose of our previous persona, we'll look at the challenges of a destination. And there are a lot of things to consider there as well. Each of those groups has different motivations, levels of involvement, or desired outcomes. So it's important to create separate personas for each. Now, where you get all of this data, how do we know all this? It's finding out where they're the most active or the kind of content. It depends on how you've been marketing, mainly online. This slide here provides some popular platforms and where you can get that information. For financial history, of course, there's like QuickBooks, stuff like that, if you don't have a point of sale system. So with all of these, we can find out what interests are, when they're active online, how far away they are from you geographically, which social media channel they prefer the most. Or you can go all out with a survey and get more direct answers to your questions to help you build out those personas. So now, once again, this may be familiar to those who've seen recent webinars, but we're going to an advanced stage here. This is a sales funnel or marketing funnel, customer journey, workflow, whatever. This process has a ton of different, but the point is to craft and track each step of a person's experience with your company so that the entire experience is designed for their enjoyment. You see, we've populated their journey, the funnel from top to bottom, with the tools or tactics that we know will reach the previous persona, the one that we've discussed. For example, we know that they're going to go on to Facebook and Pinterest. They'll do Google searches. We know that they're going to check out reviews, so they're probably going to stumble across Yelp. We know that budget is an issue, so we know that promotions can make a big difference. And we know that if we do a really great job, their level of activity on social media will help amplify our marketing. And then next, we place our key performance indicators, or KPIs short, for each level, so we can quickly know if we're doing well in that area. Like for instance, if website traffic, social media engagement, if they go up, then we know that awareness is doing well. If our audience is growing, either through email, social, whatever, we know that that intent is growing. If for that town, if hotel stays are going up, if hotels are getting packed, if revenue is going up for restaurants or whatever, then we know people have made that conversion. They've made those visits. And then finally, if online reviews are going up, social mentions are going up, then we know that we've successfully provided the entire experience for them. Now, finally, we're going to go a step further, and we're going to design the customer experience. Like, how can we use each stage as an opportunity to do something that our audience thinks is remarkable, maybe unexpected? We're going beyond what others are doing in these channels to something that's both unique and tailored to the interests of that particular audience. For example, for awareness or ways to reach new audiences is doing little cute baby photo competitions while they're doing their research. If you could do things that can make it easier for them, a lot of there are a few tourism websites that help people kind of create their itinerary, so they're already somewhat engaged at that point, and it's making them easier to figure out, is there enough for me to do in a weekend at this place, or do I just want to make it a day trip? That sort of stuff. For their actual visit there, activities for young kids, special parking for recent moms. If you know that this audience is going to visit you, whether it's your website, in person, whatever, what can you do on your website that makes things seem a little more tailored to them? One that, and then finally, for referral, I mean, how can you improve the experience in a way that your customer is not only going to love it, but also helps them amplify their experience? And there's something that we've been working on. We're working on it pretty well before the shutdown, and that is it's like a GPS based scavenger hunt. So somebody would have to go from one part of, they'd have to visit like one particular site in town, and it's a mobile app. They go there, there's a QR code, they scan that, then they can go to the next place. And in the process, they're learning about the town. Because I know whenever I go to a new place, I kind of get there and I'm like, well, what do I do now? And something like this really helps to immerse them into what you like to show them. And this is a customer centric experience. This is how you take the way that you normally function and center it around the customer. Well, you put it around the customer, and it becomes something that's tailored to their experience. Now, once you start a program like this, you'll begin to learn more and more about your customers, which is, of course, understandable since you'll be focusing more on them anyway. But as it evolves, there are some things that you're going to notice. First, you'll begin to look for passion as an important quality in your recruitment. You're going to look for people that truly believe in the importance of customer experience. Actually, you may end up hiring your own customers if you do it well. Second, the evolution of your business offering, your service or product, it will be in response to what the customer wants and needs, making your brand more powerful and more meaningful over time. You know, brands that are committed to a customer centricity focus develops products and services around those customers. So their offering becomes more and more relevant, more and more meaningful. Next, you'll develop mutually beneficial business relationships that are designed to maximize the customer's product and service experience. Like if if you're a shop, you may partner with a restaurant and provide like a joint discount if they shop at both places. So you're helping create an experience that's not just within your four walls or just within your realm of expertise. You're trying to extend the experience. And finally, your customer churn rate, the rate at which customers leave and need to be replaced, it's going to plummet. Uh, Customers aren't going elsewhere, and you're still bringing in new business, so your business is growing. And of course, your lifetime customer value increases, which means really you don't have to work so hard to bring in new business. In conclusion, this pandemic has cast a spotlight on the human side of the business experience. Um, People remember the interactions they've had with a company based on how they felt. Memorable experiences, good and bad, are born of intensity and they're persistent. If you meet your customers' needs in this moment of heightened vulnerability, and if you go the extra mile, which could be like extending payment terms for a few critical weeks or giving a little extra something unexpected, the emotionally evocative nature of the action can generate like massive brand affinity, and that trust, that affinity is going to last long after COVID-19 passes. With that, I'll take questions if there are any. Okay. All right. Well, if there are no questions, thank you all for joining me. If you have any questions in the future, there's my number and my email, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.